you missed something that he said. So without further ado, I'm going to at least attempt to share my screen. All right, can you all see that? Someone tell me you can see that.
Yeah.
Excellent,
I can
great.
see it.
Great, thanks. All right, so thanks everyone for being here. This is our second annual, I'm going to call it an annual in hopes that he keeps doing it, recipe mix-up webinar with Chef Rock of DC Central Kitchen. And for those of you who don't know who Rock is, Chef Rock, like I said, works at DC Central Kitchen. He is currently a culinary instructor for our culinary job training program. And so he teaches classes about 4 times a year of about 12 to 18 students, I want to say, culinary skills. And these are individuals who are probably jobless, probably have been incarcerated, probably are or were homeless, who are looking to sort of turn their lives around and get a new opportunity and have decided to do this culinary job training program and enter the culinary workforce. Rock has been doing this for so as long as I've been at CKP, probably a little over a year now. Before that, he was the director of kitchen operations at DC Central Kitchen, which gave him a lot of the knowledge that he's going to share with us today about meal prep. Prior to joining the kitchen, or actually I think it was during his tenure here, Rock's claim to fame is that he won season 3 of the Fox show Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay, which is pretty awesome. And then in 2013, he also appeared on Chef Wanted with Ann Burrell, and actually won that show, but turned down his chef gig to continue his work at the kitchen, which we're extremely grateful for over here. He's also written a book called 44 Things Parents Should Know About Healthy Cooking for Kids, and so he's hopefully going to have a lot of insight into all of you, for all of you who ask questions about how to get those healthy meals to kids. And he's also currently an co-owner of Fat Shorty's Sausage Grill near here in Northern Virginia. He's a Northern Virginia native. And somehow I think he still has free time to hang out with his wife and kids. So anyway, so that is Rock. Thanks, Rock, so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Linda. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to use sort of those usual ingredients that you get frequently donated to your campus kitchen in different ways. So this is a bunch of ingredients that y'all told me you get all the time, and so we're just going to let Rock brainstorm with us for a sec.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks, Linda. I have a lot of fun doing this, and I'm happy to do it. I appreciate you guys and what all of you are doing around the country to further our mission. So this means a lot that I can, you know, help a little bit. But you all are doing the big part. It's easy for me to sit up here and talk for an hour. So what I'd like to do, I don't know how. I think you said people type in, but if I say anything that spurs another thought, or I miss something, or if you have any questions, I really like for this to be a conversation. I know you submitted, but if you want to ask anything at any point, I don't know how they chime in, but please chime in.
Absolutely.
And ask away.
No one is muted, so if you have speaking abilities, you can speak, and if you have typing abilities, you can type.
Yeah, if you need to cut me off, but because I'll keep going forever. So cut me off and ask the questions. I really want to know, you know, be able to help you guys out. All right, so we're going right in. How do we use the usuals in a different way?
Go for it.
All right, so bread, number one. We get a lot of bread down here. And if you're in New York City, nobody in New York City, right? We can't use the bagels anymore, or that was a Bloomberg thing anyway. Bread works a lot of ways. You know, one of the coolest things I learned, we used to get a bunch of bagels, thousands of pounds of them, was we make bagel chips out of them. And they're a pretty healthy snack depending upon, you know, what you want, you know, where they're going. But what we would do is we would take bagels, slice them up into little chips, either by knife or, by knife is probably the best way. Toss them in some sort of fat, right? Not much, maybe some olive oil if you have it. If not, a little bit of vegetable oil, but not much, just to give it a little crunch, but you don't need it. What you're essentially going to do is toss in some herbs if you have it, or some spice. Roast them off, bake them off until they're crispy, and they're just like potato chips. And that also serves as a even they go by themselves, or you make a nice little dipping sauce out of, you know, if you have chickpeas or something like that, you make a little hummus or some salsa or something to go along with it, or just the chips by themselves. An obvious way to use bread is through croutons. We do a bunch of salads over here, so we didn't always do croutons, but we do almost every day now because we just have bread coming in. Sandwiches are great, depending upon what you can, what you got coming in. We always need protein and jazz like that. So sandwiches sometimes create, saying I'm going to do a sandwich, the bread is the easy part to come by, is the meat and everything else in the middle. Bread pudding is cool. So we do dessert sometimes or breakfast, like a breakfast casserole. So, grain is important. There are many recipes online if you just look up a like a bread, sort of like a bread breakfast casserole or strata or something like that. Like if you have eggs around, eggs are a cheap protein. So strata is basically, if you've ever had it, it's a cooked bread, baked bread, breakfast thingamajig. And you can add vegetables. And yeah, I'm a big fan of, as you'll see throughout this presentation or read, I'm a big fan of one-pot cookery or one-pan bakery, if you will, where we can throw in a bunch of stuff and utilize product and also make it healthy and filling. I mean, the most important thing is people want a good meal. We have to keep it healthy, but somebody that's hungry and can't afford food, for me, the most important thing is that we get them something on their stomachs. So that's a couple ways to use bread. Tuna is really cool. It's a great protein. It's strong in flavor, so it goes a long way. When using any protein, I find that it is best for the work that we do to not feature the protein like we might get out at a restaurant, right? So when you go out at a restaurant, you have like your 3 or 5 components. Your chicken is center of the plate, and that's great. And if we can do that, that's awesome. However, in the work that we do and the resources that we have, protein is most expensive and hard to come by. You want to be able to stretch that with the rest of the components as much as possible. So with tuna, a couple of ways. So tuna salad is the easy way, right? So if we just do tuna salad with mayonnaise and onions and celery, it makes it challenging. It stretches it. The mayonnaise stretches it, but also with all that fat in there, so it's a little tough keeping that healthy. So a little bit of mayonnaise might be cool, and you can do a mayonnaise less, or make like a vinaigrette or another dressing, if you will, and toss that with it. That stretches it. Still maybe not enough. So what we like to do, or what I've done in the past, is put some pasta in there. So we make a tuna pasta salad. If you got some whole grain around, that makes it great as well. And you don't have to be limited to macaroni. So that will go well with a lot of grains that are, I've not done it with, I'm thinking around in my head, but maybe like we have some Israeli couscous here. That's a pasta. Make it different, but it also, again, stretching. People are getting their protein. And also getting fulfillment, like especially with kids. We'll talk about that later. Kids might like tuna salad, but we got to get them full, and we have to do it on a budget. So stretching that tuna. Tuna melts are cool if you ever come across some cheese, because you can have your grain on the bottom. Make your tuna salad still, and put a little bit of cheese, not much, on top, and bake that off. I've even seen the guys recently, we had a big tuna donation. They did like tuna patties, like you would salmon cakes. So you could take some of those old bagels and your tuna, and you can mix it in with like egg, again, or some other filling, some other binding, as we call it in culinary arts. You're stretching it, right? So instead of giving someone 4 ounces of tuna, you give them 4 or 5 ounces of this tuna patty, which has some good components in it, which are grain and your bread and all that jazz, and some flavor. And they're getting full, they're getting a substantial meal, and they're happy too. So making, and you can roast them off, or you can saute them. You can put a little. Yeah, it's good, and it stretches, and people like it. All right, canned veggies. Those are, for me, when we get canned veggies, I try to categorize them. So talking about, using those in a different way, I try to categorize them when they come in the storeroom. So say I get a couple peas here, a couple chickpeas there, some black beans, and it's all pretty random. But for us, if we can sustain it, at the end of 6 months, especially around the holidays, we'll pretty much have a bunch of the same vegetable or similar vegetables, canned veggies, in the storeroom. So from there on out, I'm a big fan of, I'll say it again, of throwing things in, traditional dishes. So we have something like I'm not a big fan of just putting something in there just to say it's healthy or just to utilize it. So if you have spaghetti, for instance, and you want to throw in something extra, you have something extra, I wouldn't put in beets. And well, actually, I may. But I wouldn't put in something extremely odd like canned asparagus inside your spaghetti sauce. It's just going to look weird. I know our mission, but people do want to eat good food, and so. But however, what does taste good, and you can sort of hide and utilize, like something like carrots, because carrots are sweet, they're orange. Even if you don't puree them, you could puree them. They're not going to stand out. They're going to be a nice little twist and a spin on something like spaghetti. So, don't be afraid to experiment. We have soup. We had a soup account here, so that's where soup is a really, it's one of those meals that you can experiment with. So don't be afraid to experiment and try something different, try something new. A prepared chicken, I think that's, I think that's an amazing donation. And there's so many things you can do with prepared chicken. I mean, for instance, we got like some chicken nuggets. I don't know where they're coming from, maybe food bank or something. And we've had them for like 2 months. And I think they've disappeared finally, but they're like McNuggets. And so we roast them off and then we toss them in sauce. I mean, I've seen them do a bunch of things. But I also, which I thought was really creative, I saw them chop them up in the food processor, and they formed them into patties. And then they started, making chicken patties out of them. So you basically have the breading on the outside, but they added, flavor to them, and they made, chicken sandwiches, or they made something like a Salisbury steak, or they topped it with a gravy and it made a casserole out of it, or something like that. So for prepared chicken, is that, Linda? I don't know if is that like grilled chicken that's whole chicken on the bone, or?
Yeah, I was thinking more like, is whoever said prepared chicken on the call want to clarify what kind of chicken you get all the time?
Nope.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember who it was.
Well, that's cool. So we get a donation of there's a barbecue place here that does big business, and they donate some like roasted half chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do, I mean, we can serve it. Again, protein. You got to think, if you have 4, people that are in the shelter, and you have 4 pieces of chicken or 2 pieces of chicken, you're not gonna, cut those 2 pieces. It's gonna look pretty sad if you cut those 2 pieces of chicken in half and serve them, 2 half a piece of chickens. However, if you can add some filler to that, right? So making a patties are always good. Things where you can hide and blend. So like making a patty, we would pull the chicken off, or making a salad of some sort. And when I say salad, I mean like a chicken and couscous salad. You pull it off and you add it with a grain, something that's healthy, something substantial, and a little, some moisture from a dressing or something. You're still giving them the half a piece of chicken, but it's more. It's a meal. It's a meal now. So if it's not center of the plate with any of your proteins, try to make it appealing, but less, center of the plate. Unless you have too much protein, then sure, why not give someone that much? Prepared pork. Yes.
This is Grant Grimes at Georgia Tech.
Hey, Grant.
And I think that may have actually been me. I can't quite remember, but that may have been my thing, the prepared chicken.
Okay.
So at our location, currently most of our food is coming from our resident dining locations, our dining halls. And so I'm getting donations, whole hotel pans at a time of proteins. And so usually our stuff would be boneless, so it wouldn't be quartered or halved or anything. It would be like chicken breasts, for example. And so I guess, and I definitely appreciate the suggestion of kind of creating a salad with it, or I was thinking maybe even just toss it on a greens kind of salad. But I guess, are there any other different ways to use, and I see prepared pork is next, that we get all the time as well, but like we seem to, it's kind of the opposite of most kitchens, but we seem to have more protein than anything, so we're trying to get creative with that other than handing them, putting a whole breast in a container,
Well, I'll tell you what to do. You ship it up here to us, because I don't know what's going on in Georgia, but well, what you can do is, all right. So I'll talk about a couple of cuisines, but one of the things that, and mind you, when I say I'm not an expert by far, I've been here and I've learned so much. I mean, you have to get really creative when you have like 10,000 pounds of eggplant coming through your door. The internet is amazing, and one of my most useful tools is searching other cuisines, other cultures around the world and what they do, because if you think about it, people use protein in different ways other than we do in America, and it's helped me. So, you know, as far as chicken, you know, you can easily go to tossing with veggies is great. So if you get some onions and peppers, I'll go, you know, really basic. You can make a stir fry out of that, right, and put it over some brown rice, or, again, I love quinoa, so I'll say that, or some other grain. Anything you can add some life and some, you know, we love Chinese food. So with the chicken, you can also make we've made like chicken fried rice. Let's see, what else? You can make stews as it gets later on in the year, or even now. You can make a chicken stew. It's something like we did chicken and dumplings not too long ago, to where you're making dumplings, and that dumpling is like flour and water and a little seasoning, and you're making a substantial, you know, chicken broth, and you add in some vegetables and some onions and some celery, and it's hearty, and you drop in these dumplings. So therefore, or biscuit mix, like Bisquick with water. So you have a substantial meal. It's home. It's comfort food. People appreciate that. So basically, to the chicken question, try to search out some other ways that people use chicken around in different. We have tortilla shells here, so sometimes we'll do tacos. We just did quesadillas the other day, and spins on those. You don't always have. If you have beans, going back to the canned veggies, you puree up some beans. This is a way to. Somebody asked a question about how much chicken for an adult. I believe I'm in CJT now, but I believe the requirement is 4 ounces for an adult is what they suggest. That, you know, my plate guidelines. But, you know, we're feeding grown men and women that are, you know, in shelters, and sometimes it's not a lot. So, like, if I'm making a chicken quesadilla, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, like, we have black-eyed peas. I'll give you, for instance, if this were me, we have literally a couple thousand pounds of black-eyed peas. I would take my black-eyed peas, very similar to beans. I would puree them, all right, season them up with some cumin, a little pepper, and whatever else, maybe some cilantro if I got it. Spread that on the tortilla, sprinkle some of the chicken, maybe some veg if I have it, and then a little bit of cheese if we have it. Give it another, you know, a tortilla. So therefore, we have a chicken quesadilla, or even if we have some tomatoes that have been donated, I roll it up and make an enchilada out of it, make my own sauce, sprinkle the cheese on that, and then voila, you got a meal. So I don't have to use as much chicken. I'm getting my protein. So it has to be 4 ounces of protein. It doesn't have to be chicken. So, you know, so anyway, that's another culture, you know, using the Mexican cuisine, and then getting those components in there. On a prepared pork, oh, go ahead, please.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I appreciate it. I think those are great ideas. We definitely, we get a lot of the same items that come through our kitchens because we use rotating menus, and so we would very much like to, for our different shelters and partners, we definitely want to, you know, change it up for them so that they're not, so that we keep their folks, you know, they have a little bit of something to look forward to. So whether it's Mexican night or having some Chinese, because you don't really expect that to see that at a shelter.
Right. That really
idea, Grant.
That really helped me out. New Orleans, even in America, we can do different cultures, but you know, just go around the globe and search something. What I do is I search, like, you know, if I had like eggplant is a good example because I was stuck a couple years ago. I had eggplant. And I think I searched Greek or some way, and or odd. You know, people are helpful, like on chowhound.com. You know, you just search different ways to cook X, Y, and Z, and you'll be surprised at the results, or different dishes to use this ingredient in. And then next thing you know, it could be the same chicken that's coming from the same catering company. But people in shelters really appreciate when they have, like, you know, some take on, you know, some lamb slider, or you know, this venison chili, venison Texas chili. People really appreciate that.
And I just want to clarify super quick.
Yeah.
The MyPlate guidelines say 5 ounces of protein for adult women and 6 ounces of protein for adult males.
Thank you.
And because I'm sharing my screen, I can't share this link with y'all, but there, if you Google it, the MyPlate site does have sort of like a conversion chart to what 1 ounce might equal. So like a small hamburger patty is like 3 ounces of protein, et cetera, if that helps.
That's great. Thank you so much. So 5 and 6 is the answer. Great question. And what we do here, if you're lacking protein, it doesn't have to be the same protein. Remember that. It can, even if you're not lacking, if you want to get creative.
We realize that we need to diversify our.
Nope. If someone's on the phone and you want to mute your phone if you're not asking a question, that'd be great.
So our prepared pork, barbecue, we get a bunch of that too. Pork is tricky because a lot of people don't eat pork, but we send it. The last thing we did was we do a lot of hash too because we have breakfast accounts, but even breakfast works for like lunch sometimes. So we get a bunch of potatoes, we get some onions, and I saw a pork, barbecue hash. That sounds pretty, cool. Remember, these things can be mashed up. I saw meatballs the other day, right? So you can take a barbecue, pulled pork barbecue, and you can treat it just like meat. It's cooked already, but you can add breadcrumbs, again, eggs. That's another source of protein. And make some binder and make little meatballs out of it. You got a little sauce, and next thing you know, you can do your own take on sort of, Swedish barbecue meatballs or something like that. So a bunch of ways you can do that. Ramen is, I haven't seen ramen here, but if I had ramen, I would.
I think this is a college donation.
Oh, that makes sense.
Common college donation, yeah.
Yes. I would. Don't be afraid. One of the things you can, I guess the hesitance with ramen would be, how does it travel? So if you're not serving right there, because if you're serving right there, ramen is one of those dishes that's so versatile, right? Because you can add anything to. You can do like it's noodles, and then just like they do at some of the the nicer restaurants that are serving $17 ramen now. You just have sort of this smorgasbord of, or like pho. The smorgasbord of ingredients that you can sort of add to it. But if you're sending it out, I'd be scared to send out hot ramen because it's going to get all mushy and the liquid's going to be gone by the time it gets to the client, especially if you're cooking it the day prior. So what I would
Amanda,
do,
are you on the call? Okay, I guess not. Amanda from Marquette was telling me that she's got a good ramen casserole recipe, which is a way to sort of prevent that squishy, sogginess.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I would not be afraid to do it cold, though. So people are apprehensive, but there are a lot of cold noodle Asian dishes that are really good. So you cook it and you cool it real quickly, and then you have some sort of dressing again with your protein, and that's another one of those ways where it's Chinese food, but it's chilled, or it can be served room temperature, but it's chilled, and that way you don't really have to worry about it being mushy. But a casserole sounds great. Beans, I think I kind of covered that a little bit. Don't be afraid to mash those up and do some tricky things, some patties with those. We put those in brownies around here. Beans are really versatile. Squash is an awesome one, especially around this time of year. Roasting squash is great. It's easier than cooking it in a pan. And what I would say with squash, really high heat, very simple, really high heat. When I say 450 degrees, because squash can be eaten raw. So you don't want to cook it for a long time. You want to get some color on it, right? You toss in some oil, salt, and pepper, and maybe some herb. Really high heat for a couple of minutes. Get a little browning. Take it out, and it's done. You don't want to get it mushy. When it's mushy, and remember that you have to let it cool so it doesn't get too mushy. So bananas, we put those in breads. We're making those for some revenue-generating programs here. So we're making a banana bread. We dehydrate. The bananas are hard because they have so much liquid, but we do have a dehydrator, and we've played with that a little bit. There are a lot of, if you look in like some Caribbean cuisine, you'll see, or again, bananas is where you want to go and do some searching around sort of the globe. This is another trick I learned: freezing bananas. One time I had to do it. If you freeze the bananas right in the skin, right in the bucket, they might turn black when they're in there. But when you take them out, it might be a little freezer. Of course, nothing's as good as fresh, but they actually keep really well if you want to freeze bananas. I mean, literally, you just put them right in the freezer, maybe in a container, but put them in the freezer and take them out whenever you need them. Potatoes are the best thing in the world. Very filling. One of my favorite dishes is gnocchi. So you cook potatoes, you basically cook them, you drain them off, and it's a potato pasta. So Gnocchi. It's made from potato. I mean, that's pretty. It's like a dumpling, or you can use it in a soup and a stew. let's see, there's shepherd's pie so you make mashed potatoes and you make the stew from all these other things that we're talking about, and you top it with the potatoes and you roast it off. Shepherd's pie is an awesome one. There's a sweet potatoes. I made a peanut butter. We get that a lot. And one time I made sweet potatoes, chicken. Peanuts are a little tricky because of the allergies, but we had I searched and I did this West African chicken and peanut butter stew. It was amazing, and it was all donated product. I was pretty proud of myself. But
that sounds awesome.
Couple suggestions. All right.
All right.
Can I ask? So can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am. Go for it.
I'm sorry. This is Addie Claire from Meredith College in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hey.
And
Hey.
we get for protein. Somebody heard somewhere that we could use a lot of ground turkey. So I mean, we have so much ground turkey, which is great, and we've done meatballs and meatloaf and burgers and sliders and all types of things. Is there anything other than spaghetti that we can serve just the regular cooked up ground turkey in?
It's cooked already?
No, but I mean, if we just wanted to cook it the day ahead and then we have ground turkey, is there anything to do with it? Can you put it in a pasta salad? That doesn't sound very appetizing. I don't know what to do with it other than meatballs, meatloaf.
Awesome question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And ground meat this is amazing protein. It is versatile. So meatballs, meatloaf, spaghetti are pretty regular, right? But those are cool. But if you want to go beyond that, again, use your Google machine and search up some like ground beef recipes. Something that comes to mind for me, or ground beef recipes, and just substitute turkey. So burgers are pretty cool. If you're getting, I don't know if you're one of the ones that get bread donation or that's something that you have the budget to buy. People love when we do burgers. When we do turkey burgers, they even, people are even happier. So as far as, now you said that you do meatballs already?
We did meatballs, and then we also did meatloaf using really a similar recipe, and then we had extra meatloaf, so we cut that up into slices and then had meatloaf sandwiches.
Okay.
So we've really we have a break for the summer, and I really want to come back with some really great new things to do, and I think if I tell the team that we're making meatloaf, meatballs, or meatloaf sliders again, I might have an uproar.
I actually have a suggestion.
There you
Go
go.
for it.
So this is Grant from Georgia Tech again, but for the past about a year now, just personally, I've been eating healthy, so I've basically eliminated ground beef pretty much from my life, so I use ground turkey all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever do soup or something like soup at your unit, I would recommend doing a turkey chili. And specifically my favorite personally, because turkey, it is a little bland, a little bit. I do spicy turkey chili, and I don't, I change recipes every time. I just Google spicy turkey chili. But you'll really get some fantastic flavor out of it, and it's super cheap to make, especially if you already have the turkey. And all you really have to do is throw in some green peppers and some spices and maybe some jalapenos if you're feeling, however you're feeling. But you can really make that go a long way, and it's been extreme. I've never used it at our campus kitchen. I just wrote that on my list now to do that. But it's extremely popular with my roommates and with my family.
We've made a chili mac before, but I think what Rock was saying earlier, doing like a shepherd's pie type thing, using because we get box mashed potatoes, making box mashed potatoes, putting the turkey chili on the bottom, and then a layer of mashed potatoes on top. I think that'd be a big hit. We'd serve children, so I think they would really like that.
That sounds really good. There's another, thank you for that suggestion. There's another, looking around at different cuisines will really help. And if you, like Salisbury steak, right? So if you patty them up and you do burgers, and different flavors, right, appearance, and this is to everybody. I think we'll talk about this in a second, but kids are just like us. They're just more honest, right? If they tell you something sucks, they're gonna tell you that sucks, Daddy. My kids, they'll tell you. They're just extremely honest, and they don't know any other way. No, I'm not eating that. I don't like it. So, so we have to present and serve, or with the same sort of, as a restaurateur, we have to want them to want it. So we have to sell it. So just using different spices and calling it different things that are catchy You know, if you're serving kids, you have to call it cute names, or but if you're serving just a general population, you make these patties with this turkey, you sear them, and you can do sort of like, you know, I'm calling it Salisbury steak, but something like that with a nice sauce with vegetables. You can also do chili was a great suggestion. If you sloppy joes are great. So if you have bread and you make your sauce, sloppy joes are excellent. And there was one more. Oh, so gyro. So if you get some Mediterranean spice or something that you flavor up, you know, like a gyro flavor, whatever is in that, have it with some red onion and some tomato and some lettuce. And again, it's still the same meat, just different. It's still a burger, right? But you're calling it a gyro burger, and you're putting it in if you come across any pita bread, but you don't have to. Just any old bread will do, I think. And it's just different. You make, you know, you get yourself some yogurt or something dairy-like, and you make something similar to a tzatziki sauce. I think that, you know, people will really enjoy that.
Alrighty, so let's move on. Sorry, I was taking a second. Let's move on to this next slide about what to do with some less common ingredients. And even though it's not in order, I want to start with the canned and fresh fish. And we actually did get a question, Rock, that I'm hoping you can address when you answer this. And the question was, what makes for a good binding agent to add to fish beyond eggs? You were talking about tuna and making tuna or salmon patties. That was the question to go along with our fish discussion.
That's a good question. What you need is moisture, right? So binder is something that holds something together. So you need moisture. So, I mean, you wouldn't use orange juice, but you need, did they say tuna or is it the fish in general? Did it say fish
in general?
So, for instance, to make a binder, you need something liquid and something dry. So let's just say we're talking tuna. Well, the biggest liquid that we have that we throw down the drain is the water from the tuna, and it has flavor of the tuna. So if I didn't want to use egg, I would save that and use it plus some breadcrumb to make my binder, because you don't need eggs. So any liquid, I mean, depending upon how you're going to cook it, whatever you have, like I could see, you know, a little bit of milk maybe like working because it has that lactose in it, so it wouldn't, you know, it would help with the browning and a little bit of the sweetness, right? It wouldn't be bad. Besides egg, so if you, let's just say tomato fits in with what you're doing, tomato juice or tomato sauce would work, depending upon, again, what you're making. Like going back to the turkey, if I'm making a meatloaf or something like that and I don't want to use egg, now mind you, egg, I don't know why they don't want to use egg, but I can understand why. But egg, you know, tomato juice or tuna juice is not the same as egg, right? So the egg white and the egg yolk is fat, and there's a protein, and there's, you know, it's going to do a certain thing, you know, scientifically. So it's not an exact substitute, but essentially all you need is something wet and something dry. So I could use tomato juice and the breadcrumbs or the crackers or whatever. So again, as long as it fits, liquid and something dry is going to give you something to hold it, stick together.
Great. And then on this page, I'm trying to be cognizant of everyone's time. So I want to highlight
I'll go real quick.
Soda especially. I know a couple of our campus kitchens have recently gotten really big donations of soda, which, you know, is not overly helpful. So what are ways to use that where you're not just like giving some carbonated sugar to kids?
Okay, so, for kids, yeah.
Or anyone, really, but.
Well, I don't know if this is the company line. Maybe it is, but I used to get a bunch of sodas here, and I stopped getting a bunch of sodas here. I don't like them. You know, I believe in water. So, however, this is America, and we like soda. I use them as a treat. So I don't know how often, but I wouldn't fit it in the regular rotation. Cooking-wise, there's one little trick that soda helps with. Say you're making your own spaghetti sauce. Chef taught me this a long time ago. I don't use it, but it's pretty cool. If your spaghetti sauce is, you know, your tomatoes are bitter or anything that's bitter, Somebody just asked that question, Dr. Pepper or Coke for barbecue sauce? Exactly.
Yeah, man.
So you use soda in a tomato in a sauce that you want to make sweet, and it works like a charm. It's liquid. It doesn't taste like soda or anything like that. It has a lot of caramel in there, so it works for that. As far as distributing them, I use them as a treat. I mean, people, just because somebody's homeless or hungry doesn't mean, I can't have this holier-than-thou mentality. You never have soda. People like soda. I just don't use them. I didn't use them as much as we got them in. Maybe use them for, we would do like community, all of the events we do. So like when we're feeding the public, so we'd stash them to the side or something like that, keep them for employees, or I just use them as a treat, and I try not to send sodas out to anybody.
Yes, that's a good point. So if y'all are doing events for, I mean, it can sort of seem counterintuitive because you're talking about feeding healthy meals to people and then you've got soda, and I get that, but I think events is a good idea. Like if you're going to have a tabling event, or if, come October, which we'll talk more about in the fall, do a food day event, you can just have them to give to students as well. I think that's really smart. And then the other thing that I have personally done, though I'm not nearly as skilled in the culinary world as any of you people on the call, is you can bake with soda. So you can do like breads or cakes. If that's,
that's right.
Another opportunity that you can take advantage of.
That is correct.
Okay, so if anyone has any specific questions about these ingredients, make sure to ask at the end, but I'm going to keep moving along. And Rot, can you talk real quick about some of the points you were giving me earlier about making sure that the produce you get in, you do something with it before you wind up wasting it?
Okay, so make sure, so this is a challenge because most of the stuff people, that's why they give us food. A lot of the stuff, I shouldn't say most, but use it ASAP, as soon as possible. What use it means, if you can throw it in, if you can put it in, whatever you're cooking that day, that's great. If you can't, using it also means, like those onions on the right, they're only going to get worse. So what you can do is go through them, cut them down, cut the mold off, or if there's something in the middle of that, cut those ugly tomatoes out, cut the blemishes out. Excuse me, freeze or cook whatever you can, because once you cook it, then that extends the shelf life. Once you freeze it, that extends the shelf life. So with those onions, if I was making that chili, I would get those in if that was on the menu for today. Even if I wasn't making chili, I'd get those in. Can we use them? Maybe half of the onion. So I would break them down, dice them up, cook them. And sauteed onions are going to give you another 3 days. And what can't we use sauteed onions in? Same with tomatoes. We get tomatoes that look like this all the time. We chop them up. We get the ugly stuff out, and we puree them. And we put them in bags. Excuse me. And we freeze them. And we put a little acid, right? So you put some lemon juice, maybe about, I don't know, the ratio's online, a half a cup to a gallon of tomato juice, something like that. And you freeze, and a little bit of salt to act as preservatives. Put them in the freezer, and they're good for months. The squash, things with high water content that you want to retain their shape, like squash and cabbage, lettuces, don't freeze well. So use it right away. Again, cooking really helps. So these squash that may be dead by tomorrow, if you cut out the blemishes, cut them up, roast them at a really high heat, that'll give you another 2 or 3 days. Casseroles and stools are great. I've talked about that. And freezing.
I know the Campus Kitchen at Washington, D.C. is really good about that. They get huge boxes of produce from a really great partner that they have, and not all the produce is great to begin with, which is fine, but they make sure to pull those out and take care of the ones that have those blemishes so that they can use them later.
Right.
All right. So talking about those kids, a lot of people had questions. Did someone have a question?
I was going to say, Chef Rock, you were at our kitchen for the Campus Kitchen, Washington, D.C. for the boot camp.
Oh, yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Great. Thanks, man. It's great to hear from you.
I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to doing that again.
Well,
that's awesome. We'll be there.
We'll
be ready for you.
We'll talk about that real quick at the end, too. All right, so how to get those kids to eat those especially green veggies.
All right, so rule number 1, you heard it, make it taste great. Think about preparation. If you wouldn't eat it, neither would they. I got a chapter in my book says never cook with water, right? My wife never understands why, kids don't want to eat their veggies. You microwave them in the water with a little bit of pepper. Like, who's going to eat that? Nobody. So make them taste good. keep them fresh, keep them bright. I mean, greens are good. You got to keep food fun for kids too. You know, I don't know how young your children are that you're serving, but all ages, it has to be sort of, it has to be appealing. And the first rule is that you know, you can't say it's, you know, either because it's healthy. It's hard because it is, but try to make it as fun as possible. Keep them bright. So to keep greens bright, you cook them quickly or little at all. And small bite size, right? So things that are weird and stringy, kids are less likely to eat. But small, and if you can shape it, well, these are greens we're talking about. You can't shape those, but also mixing in. I'm not a huge fan of hiding things in things, but also, you know, foods, vegetables in foods. But if it can fit in there, right? You want to win, or you want them to eat healthy. Sometimes you got to sneak it on in there. Make it look great, and if they can, I don't know, again, how you serve, if they can be a part of it, right, even if it's something right at the end with 2 forks, kids, people in general, are less likely to reject or throw away, or we're more likely to indulge in something that we've had a part of. We've seen where it's come from, or some way along the way, so any interaction is great.
Exactly. And something that DC Central Kitchen does with their, we serve meals, we provide lunches for some schools in DC, and so this is maybe not possible all the time for you, but they do these, it's called Fresh Feature Fridays, and they prepare a vegetable or fruit, but typically a vegetable, 3 different ways, and then they have the kids vote on which way they like the best, and then they serve that for like the next month or whatever. That's how they prepare the vegetable in the future.
Wow.
And so then the kids have like that input, and they feel like they've gotten to decide, and you kind of get to know their tastes a little better. And so if that's ever like a special event even that you can do with the kids that you serve, I think that's a really fabulous idea also.
Yeah, I think that's great.
All right, so Rock has talked a lot about finding new culinary styles, I guess, to switch up your cooking a little bit. And there's this site that he actually first told me about last year that he at least used to use when he was Director of Kitchen Ops at DC Central Kitchen, called supercook.com.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead, talk about a little bit about it. I'm going to pull it up
So
here.
it's real cool. You just, I mean, literally, whatever you want to put together, you type it in the search box, and it'll suggest some things. And it is, I mean, it's just that simple. And I think it's just an awesome site for when you have odd ingredients and you're figuring out how to use them. It's, I mean, it's very simple.
Put bread and tomato, which is just, you know, whatever. And I'm not really sure why it's giving us Nutella crescents, because I doubt those have tomato in them. But otherwise, you'll see that it gives you like a whole bunch of different options. And obviously, the more ingredients you put in, I think if you put in too many, it doesn't really want to help you anymore.
Yeah, it'll scale it. It'll be too much. You know, limit your search a little bit.
Yeah, but this way, if you know, you're like Rock and you're like, oh my gosh, we have all this eggplant. What the heck am I going to do with it? You can try to pair it up with some other things that you have on hand and find some new recipes.
All right, so the Parmesan pita crisp right there, that was pretty cool. You know, that's okay. You make a little, you know, you got bread and tomato. What do I do with it? I make a chutney or some salsa or something, and I make myself some nice little, you know, pita crisp in the oven. I mean, and it'll spark what it does for me. I'm a chef, but for you, it could spark an idea. So it's not, you know, recipes are they're not Bibles. They're just guides. So it sparks ideas.
Right, exactly. Excuse you. And then another thing that I've spent some time working on, which is not as helpful in terms of what can we make with the ingredients we have, but on our Pinterest page, I have a ton of recipes that are, at least to some extent, campus kitchen friendly. And so, you know, here's different ways of using zucchini if you're getting a ton of that from a farmer's market, or peas. That sort of thing. So again, if you ever need ideas, you can always go to our Pinterest page, which is also linked on the pantry, but it's pinterest.com/campuskitchens, and hopefully find some ideas and other links to sites that might help you there.
That's really important, sharing. I mean, I just learned from, you know, a couple of you some new ideas. So, I mean, you all are the power, like, you'd be surprised how much you can learn from each other. So there's, I don't know if you have Basecamp or that Pinterest page or whatever, but keeping in touch and sharing your ideas, even no matter how, everybody's got to be doing this. Everybody's not. It can really we can help each other.
Absolutely. All right, and then one of the last questions we had is how do we keep food looking good even if it's even like post-delivery? And I'm not sure if people want to know about congregate meals or individual meals, but Rock, do you have tips about, I think mostly congregate meals, how do you keep them looking good after they've been shuttled around in a car?
Well, that's extremely important because we struggle with that, or I struggle with that. One of the things you have to, as a chef, like in a restaurant, you do a special. One of the best ways to get the perspective of the guest, you go sit down at the table, you have somebody cook it for you, and you see how it is delivered to you. So when I cook it for myself, of course, I'm in the kitchen. It's going to be great, but after delivery and it's garnished and all that jazz, so you have to put yourself in, even in your mind, you have to fast forward because we don't have trial food to play with here. So our food sometimes is prepared, and it could sit around for a couple of hours safely in a hot holding. So the one thing that I've found is you're not undercooking, but you're cooking as quickly as possible. So let's just say there's two instances. One, if you're cooking and it's going out heated. You're cooking it and you're heating it and it goes out hot. So looking at this, if it's vegetables, right, you cook them just until they're tender because they're going to continue to cook and sort of mash up a bit, maybe a little acid, just in your cooking liquid or whatever helps green vegetables stay green. But you have to cook them. Don't cook them. My point to that is do not cook to all the way done or to as this is about to be eaten. Cook and include in your mind this is going to be transported. So the other thing is be mindful of, if you're browning something and it has, like a breadcrumb topping, or, we don't do fried foods, but if you did if it's going to sit covered, it's going to, get mushy. So you have to be mindful of don't cook dishes that aren't going to travel well, because by the time our dishes get to the shelter, they still have to have some life to them, because otherwise no people aren't going to eat it. If it looks terrible. If it's cold, if you're heating it, if you're cooking yourself and then cooling it down, cooling process is where, and then a shelter or an agency gets to heat it back up. You have to cool down quickly and preserve the life of the product. So, however you're doing that, find different ways. Whether if it's in the wintertime, it's not serve safe, but you stick it outside on the back porch or whatever, or where your service deck is, and you cool down quickly. When you're cooling quickly, vegetables, proteins, they contain, they retain their life. So my best advice is find out, how to cook as quick as possible, or to retain it. And then remember, this I'm preparing this for it to sit covered for 2 or 4 hours. Is this going to be, is this going to look good and still taste good? And if not, if you're cooking it too far, maybe cook it less. All right, you're cooking a little bit less, and the carrots will be perfect by the time they get there. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. At this point, Grant from Tech says, we use steamers and blast chillers to cook and cool quickly at Tech, which is awesome, and that's great that you have those resources.
That is great, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, a couple of quick reminders before we get to questions, just in case anyone's got to hop off. Boot camp that we just brought up is our 3-day annual training here in Washington, D.C., and the registration deadline is July 14th. We'd love all of you to join us, or as many of you as possible. We'd love as many campus kitchens represented there as possible. Registration is $30, and you also have the option to take the ServSafe exam, which is $36. That's the cost of the exam. You can learn more about our tentative schedule and nearby hotels, etc., at our website, campuskitchens.org/bootcamp, all one word. And last year, Rock joined us. We did, which we're going to do again this year, a cook-your-own-lunch activity to, especially for those of us who are newer to the kitchen, to learn HACCP forms and sort of do like a little prep for the ServSafe exam. Rock last year showed us how to break down a chicken / turkey, bird, whatever, which was really helpful for some folks to prep for Turkey Palooza in November. That seems very far away, but it's not. So Rock will be joining us again this year, though I'm not going to tell you what he's going to be doing because we don't know yet. And he's going to be bringing some of our culinary job training students with him. So it's going to be a really great opportunity to meet him in person and learn some culinary skills from him and from his students that he's been teaching for some number of weeks at that point.
Yay!
So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. We hope to see you guys there. And we'll be at the Campus Kitchen at Washington, D.C., which is a really cool facility, so it'll be a good time. That and the whole 3 days will be awesome. So at this point, does anyone have other questions for Rock, things that you'd like his advice on or ideas of other things that we've been talking about? Go ahead.
No, that was me.
Okay. I know, David, at DC, if you're still there, I think you had a question about efficiently prepping your meals. I don't know if you want to ask Rock anything about that.
Yeah, Chef, we, we're generally making over 100 meals at a time, and I was wondering if there is the best order of what to cook first. We've got our vegetables, our proteins, our starches, and we're generally cooking and storing cold to serve another day, to deliver another day.
And your question is, what do you cook first?
Yeah, is there like a kitchen plan? Is there a preferred kitchen plan that you guys use at DC Central Kitchen or when you're doing larger meals?
A kitchen plan?
Yeah.
And you're cooling them. You cool all your meals to serve another day.
Yeah. So basically, we'll have tomorrow we have scheduled 7 or 8 volunteers to come in, and I'm trying to put together a plan for them about what I need to have done first. And unfortunately, I'm not the chef, so I don't have the menu, but I just figured if there was some tips I can give our chef.
Sure. The general rule is you cook whatever's going to take the longest and the most time, right? So, if you're doing salad or the thing that doesn't necessarily require, freshness, if you need something to be cut the same day, right? So if it's tomatoes and cucumbers, you don't really cut those, you cut those a day and a half in advance. They're going to be no good by the day you need to serve them. But if you're making like a, say we're talking turkeys and you're making, turkey, we want to roast our whole turkey, as early as possible because we're going to need to break it down after that and cool it, right? So that's the general rule of thumb as far as prep lists. And if there's something, even if it is fresh, if there's something that needs a lot of chopping, right, whatever's going to take the longest to get to from A to Z, you want to start those things that take the longest first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Does that answer your question? I don't know. I hope that.
No, that's actually the plan.
That's the way I do it. Okay, good. Yeah. Well, you're thinking like a chef. That's the way I do it. You just, and depending upon you don't know who your skill, who your volunteers are, right? So some volunteers are great. I won't say great. Some volunteers are more skilled in the kitchen than others, and some is their first time ever touching a knife, and it takes 3 hours to what you would think would take 30 minutes. So I would prepare to get as much work out of it, like prepare for you're teaching the person that's never touched a knife before. So whatever you need to get out of the way and you want to spend the most time on, if it's cutting carrots, then you make sure that's prioritized as first so you can get as, a big a dent in that as possible. Because if it's something you can do yourself later on after everybody's gone, then it's not a big deal. But if you're the one left holding the bag I don't say holding the bag, if you have to do the carrots, then it just makes it a little more challenging. Now you have to spend a lot more time.
Right on.
All right. Thank you.
I've got one more question.
Please.
So this would be just, I guess, an example of what our mission here at Georgia Tech Dining. We're working more and more towards offering healthier and healthier options, and we want that to carry over to the campus kitchen as well. Is there, I guess, do you just have any tips of adding flavor to the meals without necessarily adding salt, or, even reducing the salt that's already in, say, canned items? I know I've heard you can rinse them off, things like that.
Rinse what off?
But just things like that, using less salt, less sugar, less fat.
Okay.
Using canned items to reduce the salt is what he's saying.
Oh, right. Oh, definitely. So you're saying how do you make things healthier?
Exactly.
So, we like salty, fatty, sweet, right? Salt, fat, sugar. And that's what people's palates, especially, it's just what people like. So it's not a bad thing. What we can do is we can substitute, or we can still get that sensation, right? So fatty is not necessarily a flavor, it's a feel. So if something is traditionally high in fat, or we like crunch, we just have to find ways to provide that crunch or that fat. So again, that's why beans are so versatile, because they're so rich. They're not, silky like butter, but if you can add, instead of, butter, we're adding, I'm trying to think of a good, like in a baked good, this is why, applesauce is, we still need the, we're still trying to create the mouthfeel, the fattiness, right? But we're adding a different product. So, so with salt, the food is different. If you're salt works really well. Like I don't know, we got a bottle of Bragg's amino acids I saw the other day. Somebody brought in, and that's pretty pricey if you got to buy it. But if you get the donation, but different again online, foods that are saltier than others. Rinsing those vegetables off in the cans is pretty good. Using food as ingredients to substitute for other sensations. So sugar, when you need something that's sweet, instead of adding brown sugar to like a sauce or something like that, use a food. People might not be able to identify it as fast as we eat. I know as fast as I eat. You might say that spaghetti sauce is pretty sweet, but it's a little different. And next thing you know, like a roasted banana in there or something like that. So sugar's not bad. It's just the wrong kind of sugar. It's the wrong kind of sweetness. So using food as a substitute for those things works really well. So even on onions, if you want sweetness, if you caramelize onions, right? So if you slowly cook onions and slowly cook them out and slowly cook them out, they'll get really, really sweet. So if you use that as opposed to adding sugar to a barbecue sauce, and that makes it, or something that you want sweet, then it makes it a little healthier. And the same thing with the fat, just using different types of fat or food as an ingredient. Fat isn't bad. The way we add it to food at disproportionate or excess amounts makes it unhealthy. So fat is not bad. It's just, so if we can use a food, a healthy food that is sort of high in a certain type of fat, but use it, sort of, in a big way, or so a big amount of food and a little bit of it, then we can get that healthy fat. Like avocados are great. We all know that. Avocados are excellent to use, so we just have to figure out a way to get that, that green healthy fat into a dish and sort of spread it out. Avocados are great when we're like speaking of tuna salad, or if you can wing it. I've done it before with a pretty ambitious audience. If you can wing it, you can puree up some avocado in place of like mayonnaise or that green that dressing I was talking about. You're getting richness. You're getting a healthy fat. It is saturated, but it's a healthy natural fat, as opposed to mayonnaise, which is egg yolks and vegetable oil and salt. So getting the same thing across, we're using food as a substitute.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing.
All right, so I want to be cognizant of everyone's time, and I want to wrap this up since we've been going at it for a little while. Thank you all so much for calling in. I'm trying to put in the chat box, if it would let me, my email and Rock's email. If you have any further questions, I can always get in touch with him, or you can email him directly. I hope you don't mind, Rock. Mine
No, I don't at all.
Awesome. Mine's L. Kurtz at Campus Kitchens, and I sent you the login information today, so you already have my email. And Rock's is rharper at dccentralkitchen.org. But like you said, a lot of you have a lot of experience in the kitchen, and some of you have less experience, but maybe have your personal experiences in your own kitchen. So definitely don't be afraid to share ideas with one another, especially if you heard something today that you'd like to know more about. And if you're not sure who you should talk to, you can email your program manager, or you can email me, and we can get you connected with one another. Not a problem. So that's all I have today. Thank you all again for calling in, and we'll talk to you next month. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.